intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
Night Dreams, Scary Story Night on Friday nights. Call in at 9:30 p.m. Pacific at 1-253-203-6695.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, hi, everybody. This is Gary. Well, boy, the week has gone by so fast. Here it is, Friday. Make sure you tune in tomorrow between 7 and 10 to the Paranormal Lawyer. Man, he has a real good guest on. Actually, two of them. Peter Davenport from the UFO Reporting Center, and then Timothy Collin, who was abducted by aliens, and Dr. Roger Lear removed the implant. So it's going to be rather interesting tomorrow. So make sure you tune in tomorrow on Night Dreams Radio Network between 7 and 10 p.m. And tonight, well, we got a different type of guest here tonight. A little bit different from UFOs and Bigfoot and, well, government conspiracies. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, well, horror movies. Horror movies, yes, mass, role play, all that type of stuff with a special guest, Jason Boyd. Hey, Jason, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Hi, Gary. Thank you for having me on here. It's a real honor. Like I said, I've listened to your show. It's fantastic. I'm really glad to be here and hopefully share some of my useless horror knowledge that I have.
Well, you certainly have more than me. I tell you, I've been in a sci-fi freak, well, since I was a teenager, and I don't know if you have Comet Network where you live. They're the one that shows all the horror movies that are so bad that they're good, and I kind of glued to myself to that channel quite a bit.
Oh, actually, yeah, we have the Comet, and there's another one called Me TV. And that's METV, and it shows usually late-night creature features. I am a big fan of the Atomic Age films from like the 50s and some of the early 60s, and they show like the giant Gila monster, and they show the giant mantis. The excuse me, the day the Earth stood still. So they have a really awesome selection of movies, and usually I'll kind of camp out late Saturday night and watch those. And, of course, I have them, on DVD and things as well, so I can watch them anytime. But, it's just it's the kid in me that likes to enjoy, like I used to sneak up when I was a kid and watch, old classic monster movies. So definitely a big fan of the sci-fi genre as well, for sure.
Well, I've been watching the one. I think I've watched it 3 times now. I can never think of the name, but it's one where this monster is a giant bird. And the bird looks, well, I guess from reading about the movie, is that they had a certain budget. Now, they had the choice of, well, getting a number one, well, actor, for the show or the movie, or spend more money on the prop for the big, giant bird. The problem is the bird would, in the movie, eats all these airplanes, loves eating airplanes. And the bird is the most fakest thing I've ever seen in my life. And they admitted their budget was either this or that. I think they should have split it in between.
Oh, definitely. And now, of course, it's funny you touched upon that because you have movies like The Robot Monster, which I'm sure you've heard has been notorious for being one of the probably the worst films ever made. Honestly, again, I like bad movies, especially, those types, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe that they had made a bet about the director making the movie, and so he threw together a costume, which is the gorilla suit with the fishbowl space helmet on, and they called him the Ro-Man. If you remember correctly, yeah, that was, and honestly, it was so bad that at the beginning of the film, when the when the Ro-Man takes over, the kid, like, is at the beginning of the film is wearing like long sleeves and in blue jeans, and then the scene clips to where it introduces Ro-Man. The kid's wearing short sleeve shirts and a pair of shorts. So it's really bad in every regards. But again, it's one of those movies I grew up watching. So. But I know exactly which film you're talking about. I think there was one, actually, I think it was 2 made that year, or at least around the same time, where they were. It was the giant claw, and it was about this bird type creature that would capture airplanes and things, but it was never really show the bird. It was just a big claw through most of the movie. And, that was, that was a big thing back then, was the, budgets, which again, with Ed Wood, I think Ed Wood was a genius. I just think that he was, I don't think he was born in the right time era, I guess, maybe. I think a lot of his films and visions were a lot more advanced than what that particular era could handle. I read a lot of his scripts and things and a lot of the books, and believe it or not, there's actually a Church of Ed Wood that is basically just it's full of Ed Wood fans, and they discuss his movies and a lot of his works and things, and he's they not like me, they consider him a genius, but I just think he was just misunderstood. And but I mean, he had a lot of great ideas and things. It was just, again, budgeting, restrictions. But that's probably one of my more favorite directors in that time era. I mean, he had Bela Lugosi in some of his films, and and really had great visions. I think it was just. Again, I don't think anybody appreciated his vision.
All the technology wasn't there for some of his ideas, and that was the problem. I mean, nowadays, you remember Stargate series, the TV series, they really advanced.
Oh, yeah.
They really advanced technology in the digital, for effects. I mean, without that series, I don't think you'd even Walking Dead, with the getting shot, the blood splatter, the whole everything, really advanced quite a bit from that TV series.
And it's funny that you'd mention that, because a lot of the, a lot of the horror genre, I think a lot of people like me that are old school, that grew up watching the slasher films, from the 80s, and the exploitation grindhouse era from the 70s, and even the, I guess I don't know what we should call those films. They introduced the blood, like the large amounts of blood, like Color Me Red and some of the other splatter films, I guess you kind of call them. That was kind of like, that was actually done by special effects in terms of smoke and mirrors, as we call it, and doing a lot of prosthetics, squibs, lots of fake blood and things. And so these days they can pull off a lot better effects with the CG, but at the same time, you feel cheated. At least I do anyway. You feel cheated. You feel like, this is not what I grew up with. I like, the special effects like Tom Savini and Greg Nicotero, how they did just fantastic, phenomenal jobs on movies like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. And honestly, I don't know if this is a little bit of trivia. I don't know if you may know this, but Tom Savini was actually originally going to be in the original Night of the Living Dead from 1968. And of course, at the time, that was the Vietnam War, and he had got called out or drafted into the war. So a lot of us, zombie fans especially, are kind of curious as to what Night of the Living Dead could have been. I mean, it's a fantastic film. It's probably one of my all-time favorite films. It scared the bejesus out of me when I was a kid. And, I kind of wondered, with all the things that Tom Savini has done in his mark in horror, I kind of wondered what Night of the Living Dead could have been had he, had a hand in it as far as the special effects and things. I believe the movie could have been a lot more gruesome than it actually was. I mean, it was, like I said, it was scary, even back when I was a child. I mean, it's still, even to this day, it can kind of give you willies, if you, watch it late at night, pitch black dark. It's still a creepy movie.
Well, what I like about it, too, you use your imagination, but going back when the movie was made, I mean, it was really advanced, and it was really scary. I remember the first time I saw it, I was at a drive-in theater with the girl, and I tell you, it was no kissing during that movie, I'll tell you that, because you got into it, and it was scary. It was really scary, and and it made you start wondering in your mind, could this actually ever happen? But, I really like black and white for that type of movie, because it seems to draw you into it more than the color movies do. That's just my feeling. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, and you're exactly right. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Is that it? The ghouls, or because they never really refer to them as zombies, but the ghouls in the movie, that's what makes them more terrifying. Is because they look like normal people. They look like somebody that you would just see walking casually down the street. Maybe slightly less motor function, but still they don't appear to be as what we consider today to be the modern zombie. Their jaw falling off and eye sockets exposed and arm ripped off. They don't look like zombies. They look like people. They look like us. And the black and white is it masks it very well, so that it does. It gives it that really creepy vibe, and you're like, wow. And funny story behind that is actually, and I had actually mentioned this to Mr. Romero when I met him a couple years ago at one of the conventions, actually the Scarefest convention, and I was asking him about his, what was his influence with Night of the Living Dead, what caused him to want to write the script, and he actually touched on a personal favorite film of mine. Is it was The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, and he said that they had based the ghoul, as he referred to it, as he based them off of that movie, that particular type of, I guess, creature. Of course, if you've read the book I Am Legend, and if you haven't, I recommend it. It's a very, very great book. It's Richard Matheson.
Oh
It's based on that book, and it's pretty much the vampires, I guess you'd call them. They are more zombie-like. They look like just extremely tired humans. They have the dark circles. They're very lethargic, not very powerful, not very smart, except for Ben Cortman, who seems to, for some reason, retain some intelligence, which makes him probably the most deadly one of all. And he's the one that keeps outsmarting Neville throughout the whole novel. But yeah, it was interesting because he said that he had based the Night of the Living Dead ghouls from that movie, and because he said that was kind of a big influence on him as when he saw it. So I thought that was really neat because, again, that's another favorite film of mine.
Well, for me, what I liked about when Vincent Price did this movie, that, it was a total opposite of anything he was doing. And it really, kind of like drug you into the movie, and the way the end of the movie, too. I mean, I've seen that several times, and I just watch it and I go, wow, that's one of the, probably had to be one of the hardest movies he had to ever do.
And honestly, I'm one of these types that I usually will read the novel and watch the movie to kind of, base my own comparisons. But this is one of those rare instances you'll ever hear me say that I think I actually like the ending to the movie better than I did the book. And the reason being, in the book is he kind of just lays down and just dies. He just goes to sleep. Whereas in the movie, he goes out fighting, and, it was just phenomenal. I mean, I was really blown away by the ending to the movie and how, drastically different it was from the book. So that was, something that I really am glad that they decided to deviate from. There was a few little nuances in the movie that was different from the book, like the fact they call him Morgan. I never quite figured that one out because his name's Robert Neville. And again, maybe it was something, like I said, an added effect or something that maybe they just kind of wanted to slightly deviate from the book. But all in all, I mean, they really nailed it. I mean,